Welcome to Board Buzz, where we break down the Ramapo and Indian Hills Board of Education meetings. I'm Cynthia Phillips.
I'm Philomena LaForgia and a former board member. We are recapping the regular public meeting at Ramapo High School on March 13th, 2023. And for reference, the meetings are available at rih.org, but this time they're available in two parts. One is the full meeting and one is an excerpt from just the board budget financial planning from Mr. Lamb.
Exactly. So this meeting was full of good changes. One was that the dais was moved to the front of the stage so you could actually see and hear board members, which was awesome.
Yeah, that was good. Finally, right? Mrs. Sullivan, and then Mrs. Sullivan starts off the meeting with accolades for all, including administration, the board. And then at 2025, student rep reports are given. At 3236, Dr. Denisio continues the accolades in the district regarding academics and sports achievements for both schools. And then he recognizes Kathleen Whaley, who is retiring after 21 years as an English teacher in the district.
Oh, and we wish her well. He also talks about funding the mountain bike club and the competitive dance team, which students came out at that meeting to talk about. Both of those resolutions passed, which is awesome.
Yes. Cynthia, he also spoke about the addition of the Muslim holiday to the 2023-24 school calendar.
Yes, that was very exciting. Our calendar now has Eid al-Fitr as one of the days that we will be celebrating.
And we have off. Yeah, it was a great thing, and it passed unanimously.
And then at 4132, Mr. Lamb presents the 2023-2024 preliminary school budget. You can check out the full PowerPoint presentation on rih.org, as Philomena said earlier. He presented a 3.3% increase, which is over the 2% cap. And he also discussed the use of funds from the banked cap and healthcare waivers to compensate for the difference. You definitely want to watch that, folks.
Right. If you want to know how these increases affect your pocket, he will explain it, the breakdowns per town. Regardless, the final vote on the budget is April, so plenty of time for everybody to review it, bring in their questions, check out the details, and show up in April if you have questions.
For sure. At an hour one, board committee reports are given. The highlights include Mr. Bogdansky, chair of the Education Personnel Committee, raising a term we have not heard in a while, which is called block scheduling. And they also discussed later school start time.
Right. I would definitely have wanted a later start time when I was in high school, but then we go to updates on negotiations from Mrs. Emelo, which she chairs since Aaron Lorenz rejected it. And I still don't quite understand why he did that, but that's for him to carry on. It's his decision. So,
yes, she discusses the policy remote attendance by board members for in-person meeting, which passes, but not with the help of Vivian King, Helen Koulikartis, or Aaron Lorenz, who all voted no to basically allowing board members to attend board meetings remotely, which I find stunning after everything we went through with COVID. You know what I mean? Yeah. The fact that we're all working parents and it's all.
I mean, it's the way everything happens now is remotely. So to say no to it is just, I don't understand it, but let's move on. Then at 1 hour, 11:41 through 1 hour and 30, we open to the public session. Dance club advocates came in droves. They all spoke eloquently. They all spoke of their commitment and their, desire for this important club. And we can listen if you want.
Yeah, let's listen to a few because they were just wonderful.
Yes, they were.
I am Alexis Lynch, and I am a sophomore from Wyckoff and one of the founders of the team. Today, I wanted to give you an insight on how we got to where we are as a team now. We started as an idea that both Ava and I had come up with on our own at different times. We came together and decided that we really wanted to make it real. And so we began the long process together with major help from our incredible mothers. We began by researching. We looked into other local high school teams and how they ran themselves. We reached out to the coach of the Lakeland dance team and set up a meeting to discuss any questions we had. She was extremely supportive of us and was excited to hear that we were forming a team here at Ramapo. Our next step was planning. Which competitions did we want to go to? Who would be our coach? And who would choreograph for us? The process was tedious and we put many hours into it. Our next step was reaching out to the athletic director, Mr. Mancino. He helped us with the process of making everything actually come to life. We had countless meetings with him discussing our course of action. He helped us set up as a club, got us studio time, and helped us to get our advisors and coach cleared. He instructed us through the entire process leading up until now. We worked hard to reach where we are now, and we cannot wait to work just as hard for our next season. Thank you.
They were awesome. And I'm so glad it passed.
Yeah, it was a great thing.
And then at an hour 31, you speak. So let's listen to
Philomena LaForgia, Oakland. Well, I'm going to add to all the newness that is happening, which is really exciting. P22, the mountain biking, I'm very glad to see that's finally moving forward. But when I was on the board, there was a part 2 to that. And the part 2 was to create a vocational class that would help the students or help students learn how to fix bikes. And then, so that was the first launch into perhaps a vocational class, which, as you know, the nation is looking at vocational classes again. So that's one. And to piggyback off of that, I also want to seed again. I planted a seed last year, and last night the Oscars sparked this conversation again. I was wondering if the district can consider putting American Sign Language as a class to fulfill language requirements. This is something that I brought up before. It would be a great option for communication impaired kids, learning impairments, and it does fortify the college's requirements for language. So I know you have talked about, there's a lot of initiatives you're looking into. I would love to talk about that. And by the way, it is an option for our kids to fulfill sign language as a language, but it comes at the parent's expense. So I think you need to revisit that. I'd like to talk about P10. P10, you have and this is not a personnel issue, this is a comment overall. You have a permanent substitute teacher fulfilling a special education science class. I was hoping perhaps you could elaborate on that. Does this person have science experience? Does this person have special education experience? Which leads me to the next question, that we haven't spoken of special education in general lately, and I'd love to know the district's position on how are we fortifying these special education hiring teachers. Let me see. I also would like to commend the new layout for the board. It's definitely easier to see and hear people. And then finally, I just wanted to comment on Tom Lamb. Thanks for the presentation. Thank you.
Thanks for presenting.
Yeah, no, I love that the idea of having the mountain bike club also have, bring that sort of vocational element, because it's such a huge part of the sport is being able to fix and repair, not just ride. I mean, I actually know kids who do that competitively, and being able to fix your own bike is just, it's part of it. So great job.
So I hope they introduce that class, and then always I'm passionate about bringing in American Sign Language. And like I said, I was watching the Oscars, and last year's winner, which happened to be a movie that was with sign language throughout the movie, the presenter, they were showing sign language again, and it just sparked the thought again. So I really think they should offer it, but who am I?
Yeah, great stuff. I really hope they consider it.
Yeah. Okay, so what happens next?
And at an hour 35:40, we have a new parent come to the mic. So let's listen.
Yes.
My name is Eric Sahili, and I'm from Franklin Lakes. The last three words of our pledge earlier tonight was justice for all. Recognizing the freedom of religion is justice for all. I wanted to thank you for recognizing Eid al-Iftar. Thank you.
So that was short, powerful, and wins our Drop the Mic Award this episode.
Good job. Thank you so much for coming and for sharing those comments. That was wonderful.
Yeah. All right. So at 1 hour and 36:21, you speak on HIBs, and I thought that was a good idea.
All right, let's listen.
Hi, Cynthia Phillips Wyckoff. I was wondering if the board would consider having a special assembly for students and possibly students and parents on the new changes to the harassment, intimidation, bullying laws. Last summer, Mr. Fogarty gave a presentation to K through 8 parents, and I believe 15 parents attended. I didn't know about it until after it had happened, so it wasn't really known to the community that this was there. I think it's very important. I actually took the time to read some of the changes. I was hoping to actually find Mr. Fogarty's presentation. I've been unable to find that. But I think it's really important for students to understand what is my responsibility as a citizen of this school. What are the consequences for my actions? I think parents need to understand it because the changes that were made were really significant. The most shocking one to me is that even at the K through 8 level, if a child in K through 8 gets a HIB, and you know, they're babies, they do silly things, but if they get a HIB, that HIB stays with them for their entire career. It stays on their permanent record. I think parents and students need to understand the ramifications of that when they go to apply to college and you have to disclose. Does it prevent you from getting a job in law enforcement as a doctor? I mean, I don't know what the ramifications are, but I think that having a special assembly that really explains to kids, yes, this is the student code of conduct, you should know that. This is the harassment, intimidation, bullying laws that we are required to observe and govern you upon based on the state of New Jersey. So that's my question. Thank you.
And I agree with you. I don't know why more knowledge is not available. And I think the public should know exactly what these HIB laws are about prior to actually being confronted with a situation that is unfortunate. So I agree with you. But anyway.
And you know what? I will tell you that the changes were dramatic. I mean, I know 2 parents who went to that, and they said they walked out of there really shocked because they were like, wow, I can't believe that our students are going to be, I don't even know what to say, judged, you know, to that degree. You know what I mean? Because kids do silly things. And obviously you need a law because harassment, intimidation, bullying happens and you need to protect students. But I think if they understood this whole thing about how it stays on your permanent record and what the impact of that is, it could even help mitigate issues, you know? I don't know, just my thought.
Yeah, no, I agree. Then public comment closes at 1 hour 39. Dr. D offers answers to the public. I think we should listen to that. He has some insight.
Okay, for sure. Let's cut to Dr. Dionisia.
A couple of questions in regards to the calendar. So the February break is still in the calendar. That shift happened a few years ago when there was a full week off. The district moved to a long weekend. And then I believe it was the following year, as I understand it correctly, moved back to the full week off. The complexity with that is that we're obviously an interconnected 3 municipality flow community. So the coordination of the calendars between all 4 school districts needs to be aligned very closely because naturally we have parents who have children in the K-8 and they also have children in the high school. And when the calendars are not closely aligned, it presents a lot of challenges. So the February break is still in the calendar. And as you all know, we've made some great efforts this year, increasing 3 half days for professional development. So it still counts as a school day, but we're supporting our staff in helping meet their needs so that way we can accomplish our district goals. The break for April, so February break is the President's Week. So in 2024, it's the week of February 19th. April of 2024, the break is the week of April 15th, and Eid is on April 10th. So that's built into the calendar. And while I understand that there are differing opinions of, whether we have a February break or not, there are pros and cons. There's an upside and downside to every decision. What I'll also just share with everyone is that no matter how you cut the calendar from September 1 to June 30th, it's 180 school days. So there are pros and cons with building in these breaks, both for overall wellness, certainly for our students. So for example, while not everyone may be going away on February break or April break, there is an advantage to having those breaks built in from a wellness standpoint. And there's also an advantage for our staff as well. So it gives these pauses, these checkpoints throughout the year in order to be able to ensure that we're taking that seriously. So it is something that we'll continue to examine. I think the calendar for next year is continues to be refined and improved upon. And naturally, like everything else, we'll continue to have more conversations around the calendar through our board committees and getting feedback from the community.
So at an hour 41, we cut to open board discussion, and Vivian Uden-King asked for clarification on the remote policy, which Kim Anch and Dr. Dionisio offer.
She then asked for clarification on the mountain bike and dance agenda items, and a discussion ensues with her and Dr. Dionisio. But quite frankly, I think she created confusion, and I'd rather not show it. I think she just created confusion with the dance club.
She did. And yeah, let's just move on. So it's worth mentioning, unlike the past few meetings, we did not hear anything from Aaron Lorenz, Helen Koulikardis, and Brian DeLate the whole evening.
I did notice that. Regardless, Cynthia, all agenda items passed.
Yes. And then at an hour 57, the second open public session opens and basically closes. Not very many people spoke. However, I did make a comment that I need to share. I don't usually like to highlight myself, but I need to share this one.
Okay.
Because at the last meeting, we had a community member who knew information that I was surprised that she knew. And at that meeting, she congratulated the Bush Group for winning a contract with our district on a single interview. But that was not discussed until later in the meeting. And I actually went back to the video because I thought maybe I was mistaken. But that particular bit of information didn't come up until later in the meeting. She also said, I noticed that the contract has no limit in the upper spending, even though 5 board members voted to get new counsel due to their fiscal concerns. So I read the agenda item, and those contract details were not in the agenda item. So my question is, how would a community member come by that information? And is that something that the board thinks that should be investigated, or is that a concern to you? Thank you.
Cynthia, I also emailed Dr. D the following day, concerned about leaks. This is a concern we always have about how the public receives the same information at the same time. But we were called out because I referenced that this person said, I noticed that the contract has no limits in upper spending. And she called us out on social media saying that that's not what she said. What she said is, I noticed that the resolution for the contract does not have any upper limits on spending, even though 5 board members voted to get new counsel due to their fiscal concerns. So that's what she said. And so I riffed on the fact that how did she see the contract, which in fact, no one hopefully saw the contract because it wasn't public to everybody.
Right.
So we commented about that. And
No, she was right 100% because I thought she had used the words contract, and that's fine. However, a summary is not the entire contract. So nobody really knows if there's a cap or not. That is an assumption on her part, unless you read the whole contract. However, my original question about how would she know that the board approved the attorney on one round of interview, to me, that's still a fair question, and it still remains open. So a community member who I know actually Oprah'd her Oprah. I went through a series of emails from the community member. And number one, I did not see a question asking for emails about the board and inquiring about hiring of the attorneys. So to me, that kind of still remains open. Her Oprah request ended on January 31st. Our meeting happened on the 13th, so a second meeting could have happened. So, I mean, I hope that question gets answered as well. So I'm glad that we were corrected on the first one. I appreciate that. And let's see, maybe there'll be some great answer for the first.
Listen, I think we are very transparent. I think we tell it as it is. I think that's what we're trying to do. I think that's what we want to do. And so we're still concerned.
Yeah, we ask a lot of questions because that's
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, at 2 hours and 5 minutes, Dr. D offers an update on special education. He kind of answers my initial question, and I thought that was pretty interesting. He talks about an ICR model, and I think maybe we should leave on a positive note, which I think was a positive note.
Yes, for sure. I thought it was really excellent. So let's cut to Dr. D.
Do you want to respond to any questions, Dr. Dinicio, at all?
No, we can't speak about personnel, as you mentioned, but what I can say is that staff members that are recommended for approval are qualified and certified in the areas that are necessary. So that much I can say. And there was an earlier question this evening in regards to a reference special education. And I believe Mr. Bogdansky included that as part of the education and personnel update, the ICR model that we're moving into for next year. That was being recommended by the administration is for grade 9. And we have an opportunity to scale that for the year after. And we've been talking a lot about a possible partnership with a local university for a teacher of students with disability certification. So that's something that the administration and the board are working very hard on. And we're getting closer to bringing that to fruition.
You may want to say what ICR stands for.
That's ICR's in-class resource support model, where you have essentially a co-teaching model in the classroom, general education certification by teacher, and a secondary partner teacher that work collaboratively in tandem who possesses a special education certification, otherwise known as most commonly TOSD, or a teacher of students with disabilities. And we are working on a partnership with a local university where we are going to be able to host on site a hybrid model certification program that will take approximately 1 year. The district will be funding that in its entirety in order to be able to support our teachers to earn their certification. And these are teachers who are already existing and on staff. So in combination of being able to provide that in-house partnership program and recruiting other teachers for special education, and then scaling it strategically over the next 2 years, we feel confident that we'll be able to meet our students' needs and continue to refine our process here.
Thank you, Dr. Dinicio.
Cynthia, it was great to hear some updates on special education, and it sounds like the district is moving and making some great strides.
Oh, that's wonderful. It's so great for that community. So that's it for us, folks. The next meeting is Monday, March 27th, 2023, a regular public meeting at Indian Hills High School. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on YouTube, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.